Hey guys, this is the Taishan, world's latest CNC Full Metal Springer Blaster. Huge thank you to Alexander from Light Wizards for the tremendous help with filming the intro footage, and also for lending me his silver and black Taishan for review. Alexander and I got our worker Taishans from IFB. It comes in silver, silver black, and custom anodized. Product links are in the video description. The Taishan is the second blaster from worker to be named after a mountain, the first being the Kunlun. According to UNESCO, the Taishan is the most famous sacred mountain of China and was listed as a cultural and natural heritage of UNESCO in 1987. If worker is naming this blaster after the most famous sacred mountain in China, you know it is good. However, I have one small complaint regarding the blaster, which will be explained later. We will also take a closer look at the normal version of the Taishan. But first, let's go back to the beginning. When the pre-order for the custom anodized Taishan was up on IFB about 2.5 months ago, I placed the order immediately and got to work sourcing for suitable parts and accessories. Then came the spray painting. By the way, I am an impatient noob at spray painting and did many things incorrectly. Spraying the nozzle too near to the parts, doing it in hot direct sunlight, and ignoring the proper curing time. Obviously, there were plenty of imperfections. Some parts were cakey and some had cracks on them. The paint job could have been much better, but I was satisfied with the overall look. Just don't stare at it too closely and it will look good. This is one of 3 nylon angled risers that Ryan from Nerf SG passed to me. An angled riser is an attachment with a certain degree of incline, which you add on to your sight to compensate for its elevation adjustment limitations. I have been trying these nylon angled risers for a while. They have a fixed 1.5 degree incline and with integrated thumb screws for toolless mounting. It is also good for players wearing face protection as it provides a more comfortable and natural aiming posture without having to tilt and tuck your face against the cheek well to get a side picture. They are way lighter than the quick detach metal ones that I usually use. If you want to reduce your blaster setup's weight, these nylon risers are definitely worth considering. The one with 35 cm elevation is available for 17 Singapore dollars and 50 cents at IFB now. So, while waiting for the Taishan to arrive, I was assembling and spraying these parts in preparation for the big day. Two and a half months later, my custom anodized Taishan arrived in 4 carton boxes. Please note that the actual parts for the normal version of the Taishan may come in different forms. Or you can always ask IFB to assemble it for you if you want. Let's unbox them and look at what's inside. Here is the lower receiver. By the way, I tried to have different shades of gold for the anodized gold colors of the blaster and the spray painted accessories to try to create a slight contrast and depth. The multiple shades of gold seem to make the blaster look more dynamic, instead of just one standard shade of gold, which will make the blaster look flat. The Seagull mag with mag sleeve fits nicely. Next is the plunger system. The rod comes with an attached plastic spring guide similar to that of the Kunlun. The buffer tube. Front part of the blaster with the priming block, return spring, pusher and silicone padding. Some screws. The standard worker Seagull pump grip. Metal iron sights which I did not use. 31 cm threaded barrel. Picatinny rail. Black curved Seagull Talon magazine. A very nice pistol grip with real wooden plates. One 200 FPS spring, which I believe to be 1.5 times 280 mm. I forgot to measure it out of the box before testing, and only remembered to measure it after numerous tests. I am not too sure if the spring has shortened a little bit after all the testing, but 1.5 times 280 seems to be right. The default basic buttstock, which I know some Seagull users do not like. BCAR, extra O-rings, 2 Allen keys, extra screws and catch springs, trigger guard, trigger, catch plate with spring, and the sear. Here are the assembly instructions on screen if you want to pause the video and take a closer look. The assembly process took about 30 minutes. It is important to refer to the assembly instructions for the correct screw lengths to use. Attaching the trigger onto the receiver and screwing it in. Putting on the catch spring and catch plate. The catch plate comes lubricated, but I added a little bit more. Inserting the sear into the receiver and pressing it down while screwing it in. Unscrewing the two screws here to insert the pistol grip. Opening the grip end cap. Putting the two screws back in through the grip. Here is the back half of the upper receiver with a metal plunger tube inside. Opening it up to insert the buffer tube. Closing the shell and screwing it back. securing the buffer tube to the shell with 2 more screws. Put the top and bottom together. Put a screw in from the back. Added in 2 screws here. The plunger rod O-ring comes lubricated from the factory, but I added a little bit more lube. Adjusted the return spring slightly as it was out of place. Pushed and threaded the barrel in. Here's a closer look at the priming block. There are 3 rollers on each of the left and right side of the priming block. The rollers roll on tracks inside the shell, and the tracks are part of the shell itself. I also added a little bit of lube to these rollers. The prime is very smooth. Next, putting in the spring. As mentioned earlier, I forgot to measure the spring first before putting it through numerous tests. But it should be a 1.5 x 280 spring if I'm not wrong. This spring supposedly hits around 200 FPS. Since the blaster is already opened, I'm just going to drop the spring in like this. Dropping in the plunger rod. This Taishan also has a spring quick swap opening at the buffer tube, which will be elaborated later on. Taking out these 2 screws at the front part first. Pushing the front part in and putting 2 screws in from the bottom and 1 more screw from the top. Next, attaching the pump grip to the bottom Picatinny rail. Screwing on the buttstock. And this is what the Taishan looks like when it is fully assembled. Of course, I am going to dress up my gold Taishan to make it look even better. Attaching the rear leaf sight. Putting on the front side post. ZWQ 30 bearings BCAR. Attaching a decorative fake cleaning rod. Mounting the rear dot sight with Ryan's Nylon 1.5 degree optics riser. Here's one of the curved Seagull mag with gold spray painted mag sleeve. Swapping out the default worker palm grip with a spray painted metal one instead. I don't mind having a smaller palm grip as it is gold and metal, and technically, This Taishan can be palmed with just one index finger. More on this later on. Added a sling mount on the rail to attach some blaster charms to it. Here are the charms that were added at first. However, the gold $100 bill is made of metal and it may scratch the blaster shell. Hence, the dollar was replaced with a gold minifigure instead. The gold minifigure is now holding the gold AK. Seems cuter and more friendly this way. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle arrived. Taking out the default buttstock and switching to this gold skeletonized buttstock instead. This butt plate is bigger, its height is adjustable, and it is way more comfortable to shoulder the blaster with. Here is my gold Taishan in its final form, compared to the regular silver black Taishan. In terms of appearance, I think people will either hate it or love it. I am on the side of loving it, of course. My local public games will probably not allow this gold Taishan to be used, because it may look a little bit too aggressive. I may have to wrap it up with colourful wraps to make it more public friendly. Definitely going to display this full metal blaster in the house. Now that I have shown off my gold Taishan in its full glory, let's get back to the review. Here is Alexander's silver black Taishan with a couple of attachments. Let's take out the ZWQ 16 BCAR version 2 first, followed by the 3D printed rails at the sides. This ZWQ 16 BCAR version 2 is different from the version 1 in terms of aesthetics. Personally, I feel that this version 2 looks better than the version 1. Performance should be about the same for both versions. The plunger air volume is 81cc, which is the same as the Seagull. And here is the Taishan when it comes to you assembled. It measures about 68 cm long and weighs around 2 kg. It comes with extra screws, O-rings, catch springs, Allen keys, 15 round black curved Allen magazine, also known as the Seagull mag, and the orange pica. Let's take a closer look from tip to butt. The blaster is made almost entirely of metal. Despite it being about 2 kg, it is very well balanced. It has screw ports for optional Picatinny rails at the front. Metal front side posts with black metal Picatinny top rail, nice cutout windows on the shroud. Lower receiver looks good. Pistol grip looks nice and comfortable too. Buffer tube with standard Seagull buttstock. By the way, these CNC metal sights are for aesthetic purposes and not practical for aiming, unless you mount them on risers at the front and back, which will look a little bit odd. The Picatinny rail does not have any sharp edges at all. In fact, the entire blaster does not have any sharp edges. Usually, CNC metal blasters from other companies are quite sharp at the edges, especially the Picatinny rails. But Worker has done a very good job here. The blaster feels very sturdy and solid. No flex at all. The Taishan is probably the smoothest Springer blaster I have ever primed. This is definitely one of my favourite parts of this blaster. The priming block has 3 rollers on each side and is rolling along inner tracks which are part of the shell. As mentioned earlier, I also added a bit of loop to the rollers to make them even smoother. The Taishan has a short stroke of about 7 cm, which is about the same as the Seagull. With the 200 FPS spring inside, the prime is smooth and easy. The air seal is perfect, as expected. The return spring can be seen below. The mag well is slightly flat. The Seagull magazine slides in smoothly. To unload, simply press the ambidextrous mag release button and pull out the mag at the same time, either with the thumb or with the trigger finger. I have one minor complaint about the loading mechanism. It does not mag drop. You will have to pull out the mag. I was a little bit disappointed to find that I could not drop or weak flick the mag. But realistically, I do not do mag drops or weak flicks at actual games, so it is not a very big issue. The trigger guard is very nice. Now comes my favorite part about this blaster, the trigger. As seen in the assembly footage earlier, this trigger is on a pivot. The trigger pull is very light and responsive. Give it a light tap and it fires off. It has just a tiny bit of play and it fires off with even pressure and a bit of travel. This Taishan has the best trigger I've ever used in a Springer blaster, and I love it. The pistol grip has real wood plates on it, and it is swappable with other compatible grips. I really like how the wood looks and feels, although I know some will prefer a more modern look and feel to the grip. Standard buffer tube with the default minimalist buttstock like the one the Seagull has. This metal buttstock does look very clean and sleek, but not very comfortable. If you are using the default buttstock, there is no need to remove it when swapping springs. Spring swapping is easy and accessible from this buffer tube end cap. Simply use the provided Allen key to unscrew the cap anti-clockwise. Do put a bit of pressure with your thumb on the end cap to prevent it from ejecting out. The cap also doubles as a spring guide to ensure the spring stays in place. There is also an O-ring at the end cap. Apply some pressure and screw the end cap clockwise to close and tighten it. There have been plenty of people who say that this Taishan is just a Seagull, but full metal. From the outside, both blasters do look similar in terms of size and shape. But on the inside, the Taishan's internals are very much improved and different enough to be regarded as its own blaster. So, I feel that a more accurate representation of the Taishan would be that it is inspired by the Seagull, but vastly improved with different internals, super smooth and easier prime, a way better trigger and probably the best trigger I've ever used, and CNC Full Metal durability. Let's check out the Taishan's performance with a chronograph test first and the grouping test later. The chronograph test is conducted without a BCAR, with the new ZWQ16 BCAR version 2 and with the ZWQ30 BCAR. 1 gram regular worker darts are used as reference. Sabre 1.3 gram T-darts and 1.2 gram Blu 2.0 darts are used, as I feel that these two dart types are currently the best in the market. The grouping test is conducted outdoors with a life-size target at 20 meters. My red dot sight is transferred from my Slings 2.1's LPVO and is roughly 0 to hit a 15-meter target, so I'm expecting the groupings to hit slightly lower of the target. I'm aiming at the center mass. There are light to moderate winds and humidity is high. By the way, the Taishan is a 200 FPS blaster, so a 20-meter target seems ideal to gauge performance. The combination of the CWQ30 BCAR and Blu 2.0 darts seem to work very well with the tightest grouping in outdoor windy conditions. In my opinion, the Taishan is probably the best CNC Full Metal 200 FPS Springer blaster money can buy. It has an extremely smooth and easy priming mechanism. It can be primed with 2 fingers, or even 1 finger if you want. It has the best trigger I have ever used in a Springer. The Full Metal build is solid and durable. Its performance is excellent. Overall, the Taishan is a significant improvement from the Seagull, and is different enough to warrant its own legendary mountain name. So please do not call it a metal Seagull. It is a better blaster after all. But it does weigh about 2 kg, so please make sure your body can handle it, should you choose to bring it to your next competitive game. In terms of looks, you either love it or hate it. I have to admit, the Taishan's aesthetic is not for everyone, but I love it so much that I accept that it is unable to drop or brick flick max. This Taishan is a great wall display, and I may get an additional display case and blaster stand for it. It does have a very premium price tag of about 540 Singapore dollars for the normal versions, and it definitely belongs to the collector's item category. This will pair very well with my good old golden sword. Another video for another time. Please leave a comment below on whether you love or hate this gold Taishan, or just the Taishan in general. Like this video and hit that subscribe button if you found this review helpful. Thank you and see you.